Imagine finding out you're pregnant in a gas station bathroom. Shout dom, then realizing the man waiting in the idling Tesla outside may be planning your downfall. Tonight, meet Madison Hayes, a former Olympic hopeful turned third-grade teacher who thought she married Chicago's golden boy. In the next hour, you'll step into a world where a couples therapist is actually a corporate lawyer. A custody evaluation is a trap, and a glittering tech gala becomes a public humiliation with one stolen necklace that gives everything away. What would you do if your husband could buy the courts, rewrite your medical records, and stage your episodes on camera? Madison chooses something else: a hidden mic, a billionaire with a buried grief, and a plan that leads to a train platform where the mask finally slips. Twins on the way, a past suicide that never added up, a confession no one was supposed to hear. If you're hooked already, help this story reach more people. Tap, like, drop your wildest prediction in the comments, share it with a friend who loves high-stakes drama, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the moment the hunter becomes the hunted. The Chicago wind cut through Madison Hayes like a blade as she stood in the gas station bathroom, staring at two pink lines that would change everything. Her hands trembled as she gripped the pregnancy test, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry wasps. Outside, her husband Nathan's Tesla sat idling, his impatience radiating through the thin walls as he honked the horn twice. Madison pressed her palm against her still flat stomach, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, but of something more complex. Relief maybe, or hope. After 3 years of trying, of fertility treatments that Nathan called unnecessary expenses, of monthly disappointments that he barely acknowledged, she was finally pregnant. "Madison, we're going to be late," Nathan's voice cut through the bathroom door. He had entered the gas station, his footsteps sharp against the linoleum. "The reservation is in 20 minutes. She quickly wrapped the test in paper towels and shoved it deep into her purse. Tonight was their 5th anniversary. He had actually remembered this year, even made reservations at Alinea, the restaurant where they had their first date. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe things would change. Madison emerged from the bathroom, forcing a smile. Nathan stood by the energy drinks, his phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing animatedly. At 35, he still looked like the tech wonder kid who had swept her off her feet at a Northwestern alumni event. Sharp jawline, perfectly styled dark hair, custom Tom Ford suit that cost more than she made in a month teaching 3rd grade. "The deal closes Monday," Nathan said into the phone, not looking at her. "Tell the Singapore team to stop crying about the numbers. We're not running a charity." He ended the call and finally looked at Madison. His eyes, cold and calculating, swept over her simple black dress. The dress she had worn on their first anniversary when he still looked at her like she mattered. "Could you not have worn something designer?" Nathan asked, already walking toward the exit. "Jessica will be there with the other partners. You know how important image is." Jessica, always Jessica, his business partner who wore Louboutins to breakfast meetings and had a laugh that sounded like champagne bubbles. Madison followed Nathan to the car, the pregnancy test weighing heavy in her purse like a secret that might explode. The restaurant was all modern elegance and molecular gastronomy. Nathan spent most of dinner on his phone, occasionally glancing up to critique Madison's choice of wine or the way she held her fork. She waited for the right moment, watching him network with other diners. His charm turned on for everyone but her. "Nathan," Madison finally said as dessert arrived, a sculptural thing that looked more like art than food, "I have something to tell you." "Can it wait?" Nathan didn't look up from his phone. "Singapore is melting down about the merger." "It's important," he sighed, setting his phone face down on the table with the exaggerated patience of someone dealing with a child. "Fine, what is it?" Madison reached for his hand, but he pulled it back to grab his wine glass. She took a breath, steadying herself. "I'm pregnant." The wine glass stopped midway to his lips. His expression shifted through several emotions so quickly she couldn't read them all. Surprise, calculation, something darker. "You're joking," Nathan said flatly. 3 tests, all positive. "I just found out at the gas station, but I wanted to tell you here where we had our first date, where everything began." Nathan set down his glass with deliberate precision. "This is unfortunate timing, Madison. The merger, the expansion to Asia, I specifically told you we needed to wait. We've been trying for 3 years. You've been trying, Nathan corrected, his voice sharp enough to draw glances from nearby tables. I've been building an empire. There's a difference. Madison felt something crack inside her chest. It's our baby, Nathan, our child. Nathan laughed, but there was no warmth in it. A baby. Perfect. Another expense, another complication, another reason for you to let yourself go even more than you already have. The words hit Madison like physical blows. Around them, the restaurant continued its elegant dance of service and sophistication, oblivious to the marriage dying at table 12. I thought you'd be happy, Madison whispered. Happy? Nathan pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I'm messaging Jessica. We'll need to restructure the Singapore timeline if you're going to be even more useless than usual. Madison stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'm leaving. Sit down, Nathan commanded, not looking up. People are watching. But Madison was already walking toward the exit, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. She heard Nathan apologizing to nearby diners, explaining his wife was emotional, you know how women get. Outside, the Chicago night embraced her with its familiar chaos. She stood on the sidewalk, watching taxis stream past like yellow fish in a dark river. Her hand found her stomach again, protective now. It's okay, she whispered to the life growing inside her. We'll be okay. And she didn't know that 3 blocks away, in a penthouse office overlooking the city, William Sterling was watching the same street through his telescope, unable to sleep, haunted by memories of another pregnant woman who had whispered the same words 8 years ago. His daughter, Catherine, Nathan Cross's first wife, whose suicide had never quite added up. Madison called an Uber, leaving Nathan to his image and his anger. As the car pulled away from the restaurant, she didn't see Nathan on his phone, didn't hear him tell Jessica to initiate Plan B, didn't know that her pregnancy wasn't just unfortunate timing. It was evidence Nathan couldn't afford to let live. 3 weeks had passed since the anniversary dinner, and Madison had become a ghost in her own home. Nathan moved through their Lincoln Park brownstone like she didn't exist, speaking only when necessary, sleeping in his office, leaving before she woke. The silence was worse than screaming. Tonight was Crosstech's annual gala, the crown jewel of Chicago's tech social calendar. Madison stood before the bedroom mirror, trying to zip the emerald designer gown Nathan had sent up with his assistant. The dress was beautiful but unforgiving, already tight around her middle where the twins she carried were beginning to show. Twins, she had found out yesterday but hadn't found a way to tell Nathan. He had been in Singapore, or so he claimed. 5 minutes, Nathan called from downstairs, his first words to her in days. Madison descended the staircase carefully, one hand on the rail, the other protecting her stomach. Nathan waited by the door in his tuxedo, looking like every woman's dream in Madison's waking nightmare. His eyes swept over her with clinical assessment. You're showing, he said flatly. Try to stand behind people in the photos. The ride to the Four Seasons was silent except for Nathan's phone calls. Madison watched the city blur past, wondering when she had become invisible, when the athlete who had almost made the Olympic track team had become someone who apologized for existing. The ballroom was a constellation of Chicago's elite, tech moguls, venture capitalists, politicians, all orbiting around Nathan like he was the sun. Madison tried to stay close, but he kept stepping away, leaving her stranded in conversational dead zones. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan's voice boomed from the stage, commanding instant attention. Thank you for joining us for Crosstech's 5th annual gala. Madison made her way toward the stage, hoping to stand with him during the speech like previous years. Nathan saw her approaching and subtly shook his head, his smile never wavering. This year marks unprecedented growth, Nathan continued, and I couldn't have done it without my incredible team, especially our new CFO, Jessica Thorne. Jessica emerged from the crowd like she had been waiting for her cue. She glided onto the stage in a silver dress that cost more than most people's cars, her hair perfect, her smile predatory. And around her neck, catching the light like a captured star, was Madison's anniversary necklace, the one Nathan claimed had been stolen during a break-in last week. Madison's hand flew to her throat, her breath catching. Several people noticed, whispers starting to ripple through the crowd. Jessica has been instrumental in our Asian expansion. Nathan continued, his hand finding the small of Jessica's back with practiced ease. Her vision, her dedication, her brilliance, they've transformed Crosstech from a startup to an empire. The way he looked at Jessica was how he used to look at Madison, before the injury that ended her athletic career, before she became a teacher instead of a marketing executive, before she became ordinary. And now, Nathan raised his champagne, I have an announcement that will change everything. Madison felt the room spin slightly. She gripped the back of a chair, her other hand protective over her stomach. Jessica and I have been working on something revolutionary, Nathan continued, his eyes finding Madison in the crowd with cruel precision. A partnership that goes beyond business. Crosstech and Thorne Industries are merging, creating the largest tech conglomerate in the Midwest. The room erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Jessica pressed against Nathan's side, her hand with its massive diamond ring resting possessively on his chest. Madison couldn't breathe. She stumbled backward, bumping into a waiter, sending champagne glasses cascading to the floor. The crash silenced the room. Everyone turned to stare at the pregnant woman in the too-tight dress, the teacher among titans, the wife who didn't know her place. I'm so sorry, Madison stammered, dropping to her knees to help gather the broken glass. Leave it, Nathan's voice cut through the ballroom. He was still on stage, microphone in hand, his expression disgusted. My wife, everyone, always making a scene. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Madison stood slowly, a piece of glass having sliced her palm. Blood dripped onto the marble floor. Perhaps you should go home, darling, Nathan said, his voice amplified for everyone to hear. In your condition. Madison looked up at him, at Jessica, at the hundreds of faces watching her humiliation. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. What was there to say? She walked toward the exit, each step echoing in the silent ballroom. Just before she reached the doors, her body betrayed her one more time. The room tilted, her vision blurred, and she felt herself falling. Strong arms caught her before she hit the floor. She looked up into unfamiliar eyes, gray like storm clouds, belonging to a man in his 60s with silver hair and an expensive suit. I've got you, William Sterling said quietly, though Madison didn't know his name yet. Let's get you some air. He guided her outside, away from the vultures with their phones already recording, away from Nathan's calculated cruelty. On the terrace, Madison gulped the cold night air like she had been drowning. Thank you, she managed. William handed her his handkerchief for her bleeding hand. That was quite a performance in there. My husband's? Yes, he's always been theatrical. I wasn't talking about your husband. William's eyes were kind, but knowing. I was talking about you. It takes incredible strength to walk away with dignity when someone is trying to destroy you publicly. Madison laughed bitterly. Dignity? I just bled on the Four Seasons ballroom floor. You didn't give him the reaction he wanted, William said. You didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't play the role he scripted for you. That took courage. Through the windows, they could see Nathan and Jessica posing for photographers, the power couple of Chicago tech, while Madison's blood was being mopped from the floor. I'm pregnant, Madison said suddenly, surprising herself. With twins. He doesn't know about the twins yet. William's expression darkened. May I give you some advice from someone who learned too late? Madison nodded. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when someone tries to erase you, document everything. He pressed a business card into her uninjured hand. Call if you need anything, anything at all. Then he was gone, leaving Madison alone on the terrace with the Chicago skyline glittering like broken glass. Inside, the gala continued, Nathan's voice carrying through the windows as he told another joke about his emotional wife. Madison looked at the card. William Sterling, Sterling Foundation. The name was vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. She tucked it into her purse next to the pregnancy test she still carried like talismans. The office was too warm and smelled like leather and lies. Madison sat across from Dr. Patricia Brennan, who Nathan had introduced as the city's best couples therapist. But something felt wrong from the moment Madison walked in. The diplomas on the wall were all turned slightly, making them hard to read. The books on the shelf were about corporate law, not psychology. Madison, Dr. Brennan began, her voice honeyed but sharp underneath. Nathan tells me you've been struggling with some delusions. Delusions. Madison shifted in her chair, her hand instinctively moving to her growing belly where the twins kicked in protest. The pregnancy, for instance. Nathan says you've been claiming to be pregnant, but he hasn't seen any medical confirmation. Madison stared at her, then at Nathan, who sat in the corner chair, his face a mask of concern. I showed you the ultrasound pictures. We heard their heartbeats together. I don't recall that, Nathan said smoothly, and you've been refusing to let me come to your appointments. You've been in Singapore every time I had an appointment. Dr. Brennan made a note on her legal pad. Madison caught a glimpse of the header. It wasn't therapy notes. It was a legal document. You're not a therapist, Madison said suddenly, the pieces clicking together. You're a lawyer. Dr. Brennan's mask slipped for just a moment. Nathan stood abruptly. Madison, you're having another episode, he said. This paranoia, it's why we're here. Madison stood too, backing toward the door. This is about custody. You're building a case that I'm unstable. No one's building anything, Dr. Brennan said, but her hand moved to cover the legal pad. Madison pulled out her phone and started recording. For the record, I'm Madison Hayes Cross. I'm 4 months pregnant with twins, and my husband has brought me to his corporate lawyer, Patricia Brennan, under the pretense of couples therapy. Nathan lunged for her phone, but Madison was still quick, still had the reflexes of an athlete. She dodged, reaching for the door handle. It was locked. Nathan, Brennan warned, we discussed maintaining appropriate boundaries. Unlock the door, Madison said, still recording. This is false imprisonment. Nathan grabbed her wrist, squeezing until she dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor, still recording. Madison screamed, hoping someone would hear. No one's going to hear you, Nathan said calmly. This floor is empty. I own the building. Dr. Brennan stood, clearly uncomfortable with the physical turn. Mr. Cross, perhaps we should reschedule. Nathan released Madison's wrist, leaving red marks that would purple into bruises by evening. He picked up her phone and deleted the recording with practiced ease. My wife is clearly having a mental health crisis, he said to Dr. Brennan. I trust you'll document this appropriately. The lock clicked open. Madison didn't hesitate. She ran. She made it to the elevator before Nathan caught up, his hands slamming against the doors before they could close. You're making a mistake, he said quietly, his voice more terrifying in its calmness than any shout. You have no money, no family who believes you, no friends who haven't already chosen me. Where exactly do you think you're going? Away from you. Nathan smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. You can't afford to leave me, Madison. But more importantly, I can't afford to let you. What does that mean? It means those babies you're carrying have my DNA. My company is about to go public. I can't have some teacher raising my offspring in a one-bedroom apartment, teaching them mediocrity. If you leave, I'll take them. Patricia will make sure of it. Madison's hands wrapped around her stomach protectively. No court would give you custody. No, a successful businessman versus an unstable woman who sees conspiracies everywhere, who has episodes in professional settings, who fell at a public gala and endangered her pregnancy. Nathan stepped back, allowing the elevator doors to close. Try me. As the elevator descended, Madison's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo from inside Dr. Brennan's office, taken minutes ago, showing Madison seemingly attacking Nathan while he held his hands up defensively. The angle was perfect. The story it told completely false. Another text followed. This is what the court will see. Madison's legs gave out. She sat on the elevator floor, her whole body shaking. The twins kicked and rolled, responding to her distress. She pulled out the business card William Sterling had given her, running her thumb over the embossed letters. When she reached the lobby, her phone rang. Her sister, Emma. Madison, Nathan just called me, Emma said without preamble. He's concerned about you. He says you're having paranoid delusions, that you attacked him at a therapy appointment. Emma, please, it's not true. He's planning something terrible. He also said you'd say that. Emma's voice was careful, like she was talking to someone dangerous. He's offered to pay for a real therapist for you. Madison, I think you should take the help. He's buying you too, Madison whispered. How much did he offer? How dare you? He's trying to help you, and you're accusing everyone of conspiracies. Maybe you do need professional help. The line went dead. Madison stood in the gleaming lobby of Nathan's building, watching the security guard who was clearly watching her. She was alone, her wrists throbbing, her babies kicking, her world shrinking with every passing second. She walked outside into the Chicago afternoon, her phone immediately buzzing with notifications. Nathan had posted on social media, a concerned husband asking for prayers for his wife, who was struggling with prenatal mental health issues. The comments were already pouring in, sympathy for him, judgment for her. Madison kept walking, no destination in mind, just movement. 3 blocks later, a black town car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing William Sterling. "Get in," he said simply. Madison didn't hesitate. Whatever game William was playing, it couldn't be worse than the one Nathan had already won. The safe house William provided was modest, a 2-bedroom apartment in Rogers Park, far from the gleaming towers of Nathan's world. Madison had been there 3 days, sleeping poorly, jumping at every sound, waiting for Nathan to find her. "You need to go back," William said over coffee that morning. He had been kind but distant, providing safety without explanation. "Back? Are you insane?" "No, but Nathan is getting there." William pulled out a tablet, showing her Nathan's social media. "He's filed a missing persons report. Says you're in danger to yourself and your pregnancy. If you don't surface soon, he'll have every cop in Chicago looking for you." Madison read the posts, each one painting her as more unstable than the last. Nathan had even started a hashtag, "Help Find Madison." "But if I go back," "You go back on your terms," William interrupted. "Document everything, every conversation, every threat, every bruise." He pulled out a small device that looked like a button. "Sew this into your clothes. It records continuously, uploads to a cloud server Nathan can't touch." "Why are you helping me?" William was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. 8 years ago, my daughter Catherine married Nathan Cross. She was pregnant, happy, whole. 6 months later, she fell in front of a train. They called it suicide. Madison's blood turned cold. Catherine Sterling. I found the articles when I Googled Nathan, but they said what Nathan paid them to say. But I knew my daughter. She was excited about the baby, had just decorated the nursery. She was afraid of Nathan, yes, but she wasn't suicidal. William's eyes met hers. The platform cameras malfunctioned that day. No witnesses came forward. Nathan inherited everything from her trust fund. "You think he killed her?" "I know he did, but I could never prove it." William leaned forward. "Madison, you're in danger, but you're also my only chance at justice for Catherine. If you run now, he wins again." Madison's hands shook as she processed this. "So I'm bait." "You're a survivor," William corrected. "And with my help, you'll be the last woman Nathan Cross ever hurts." That evening, Madison returned to the brownstone. Nathan was waiting in the living room, candles lit, dinner on the table, playing the concerned husband. "Darling," he said, standing with perfectly performed relief. "Thank God you're okay." Madison let him embrace her, the recording device capturing his whispered threat. "Pull this again, and I'll have you committed." "I needed space to think," she said aloud for the recording. "Of course," Nathan replied, his public voice back. "I understand. Pregnancy hormones can be overwhelming." They ate dinner in tense silence. Madison noticed the papers beside Nathan's plate. Divorce documents, but he didn't push them forward yet. He was waiting for something. After dinner, Nathan's phone rang. He smiled as he answered. "Yes, doctor. The results?" Madison's heart stopped. She had been careful to go to appointments alone, choosing a different hospital, paying cash. "How did he—" "Twins," Nathan repeated, his eyes locked on Madison. "How wonderful." He ended the call and set the phone down with deliberate calm. "You've been keeping secrets. I tried to tell you at the Kula." "No, you ambushed me, my at the Kula, in public to manipulate me." He stood, walking around the table toward her. Madison stayed seated, knowing the mic would pick up everything. "2 babies," Nathan continued, his hand landing on her shoulder, squeezing just hard enough to hurt. "Twice the child support, twice the leverage. You must be so proud of yourself." "They're your children, too." His hand tightened. "Are they? You've been disappearing, lying. Who knows what you've been doing?" "Nathan, you're hurting me." "My?" His other hand went to her throat, Not squeezing, just resting there, a promise. Or are you having another episode, like at the therapist's office? Madison stayed completely still, letting the device record his escalation. Please let go. Nathan released her abruptly, causing her to fall back in her chair. You're right, I shouldn't touch you. You're too fragile, too unstable. The court will see that. He walked to his briefcase and pulled out another document. Psychological evaluation order. Patricia filed it this morning. You'll submit to a psychiatrist of my choosing, or I'll have you involuntarily committed for endangering the pregnancy. Madison read the document, her heart sinking. The psychiatrist was Dr. Marcus Crowe, whose office was in the same building as Patricia Brennan. The fix was already in. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. And Madison, if you run again, if you embarrass me again, if you fight this at all. He leaned close, his cologne overwhelming her senses, his voice dropping to a whisper the recording device would definitely catch. I'll make sure you never see those babies. They'll grow up knowing their mother was crazy, dangerous, better off dead. Madison met his eyes, no longer the naive woman who had believed in their love. Is that what you told Catherine's baby? Nathan went completely still. For a moment, his mask slipped entirely, and she saw something monstrous underneath. Who told you about Catherine? Chicago's a small city, Nathan. People talk. He grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. Catherine was weak, pathetic. She chose her ending. But you're going to choose differently, aren't you? For the twins? Madison nodded, letting him think he'd won. But the device had caught every word, every threat, every admission. That night, while Nathan slept in his office, Madison texted William. He mentioned Catherine. He all but confessed. William replied immediately, the evaluation tomorrow is a trap, but we'll be ready. Madison lay in bed, hands on her growing belly, feeling the twins move. Hold on, she whispered to them. Mommy's going to win this time, doctor. Marcus Crowe's office was a stage set for gaslighting. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, a white noise machine that would conveniently obscure any recording devices. Madison sat across from him, the button camera William had given her sewn into her collar, a second device in her shoe. Mrs. Cross, Dr. Crowe began, his voice professionally sympathetic. Your husband is very concerned about you. I'm sure he is. Dr. Crowe made a note. That sounds hostile. Do you often feel hostility toward your husband? Every question was a trap. If she agreed, she was unstable. If she disagreed, she was in denial. Madison had Googled Dr. Crowe the night before. His license had been suspended twice, both times mysteriously reinstated after large donations to the medical board from anonymous benefactors. I feel afraid of my husband, Madison said clearly. He has threatened me, hurt me, and is using this evaluation to build a custody case. Paranoid ideation, Dr. Crowe muttered, writing extensively. Mrs. Cross, have you ever been diagnosed with any mental illness? No, but you were treated for depression after your athletic career ended. Madison froze. Those records were sealed, private. How do you know about that? Your husband provided your medical history. Dr. Crowe pulled out a file inches thick. You were on antidepressants for 2 years. You saw a therapist for, quote, adjustment disorder with depressed mood. I was 21. I'd lost my Olympic dreams. That's normal grief, not mental illness. Is it? Or is it a pattern of instability when life doesn't go your way? For 2 hours, Dr. Crowe twisted every word, pathologized every normal reaction, built a case that Madison was unfit. She stayed calm, knowing William's team was recording everything, building their own case. I'd like to schedule you for inpatient observation, Dr. Crowe finally said. Involuntary commitment? For your safety and the twins. Madison stood. I am leaving. I'm afraid you can't. Dr. Crowe pressed a button on his desk. 2 security guards entered. We have a court order for 72-hour hold. Madison's phone buzzed. William, get out now. Nathan's there. But it was too late. Nathan walked in, perfectly dressed, playing the concerned husband. Darling, it's for the best, he said loudly, performing for witnesses. Then quieter, just for her. The twins will be fine. I've already picked out their adoptive parents. Madison ran for the door, but the security guards caught her. She screamed, knowing people would hear, would witness. One guard produced a syringe. No, Madison shouted. You can't sedate a pregnant woman. It could hurt the babies. Dr. Crow hesitated, and in that moment of uncertainty, chaos erupted. The door burst open and three people entered. William Sterling, a woman with a camera, and someone Madison recognized from the news. Detective Sarah Chen. Step away from Mrs. Cross, Detective Chen commanded, badge raised. This court order is fraudulent. Judge Harrison never signed it. Dr. Crow paled. I was told, Nathan said, Nathan says a lot of things, William interrupted. He looked at Nathan with undisguised hatred, like he said Catherine was suicidal. The woman with the camera was live streaming. The security guards backed away, not wanting to be on film. Madison stood on shaking legs, moving toward Detective Chen. Mr. Cross, the detective said, you're under arrest for falsifying court documents and conspiracy to commit false imprisonment. This is ridiculous, Nathan sputtered. My wife is mentally ill. Check her records. We did. Detective Chen smiled grimly. The real ones, not the forgeries Dr. Crow created. Oh, didn't you know? Dr. Crow made a deal 20 minutes ago. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. Nathan looked at Dr. Crow with murderous rage. The psychiatrist cowered. You have the right to remain silent, Detective Chen began, but Nathan was already on his phone calling his lawyers. Madison felt a wave of relief, then sudden sharp pain. She doubled over, clutching her stomach. Something's wrong, she gasped. William caught her as she fell. There was blood, too much blood. The live stream caught it all. Madison collapsing, Nathan stepping over her to avoid getting blood on his shoes, his complete lack of concern for his wife or unborn children. Call an ambulance, William shouted. The last thing Madison heard before losing consciousness was Nathan telling his lawyer, I don't care what happens to her. Just protect my assets. The camera caught that too. Madison woke to the sound of monitors beeping and the sensation of something missing. Her hands flew to her stomach, still swollen, but eerily still. No kicks, no movement. The babies, she croaked. A nurse appeared immediately. They're okay, she said quickly. Premature emergency delivery. They're in the NICU. 28 weeks is early, but they're fighters. Both of them? Twin girls, small, but perfect. Madison sobbed with relief. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her abdomen. C-section, she realized. Emergency surgery. William appeared in the doorway, his face haggard. You've been out for 2 days, he said. The girls are stable. Nathan's in jail, though his lawyers are working on bail. I want to see them. Soon, but Madison, there's something else. William pulled up a chair. While you were unconscious, Nathan tried to claim power of attorney. He wanted to sign adoption papers. Madison's heart rate spiked, making the monitors scream. The nurse rushed back in. You need to stay calm, she said, adjusting medications. He can't take them, Madison said desperately. He can't, William assured her. I had my lawyers file emergency protection orders. But Madison, this is going to get ugly. Nathan's desperate now, and desperate men do terrible things. The next days blurred together. Madison spent hours in the NICU, watching her tiny daughters fight for every breath. She named them Hope and Grace, names Nathan would have mocked but couldn't prevent. The media storm was intense. The live stream from Dr. Crow's office had gone viral. Shut justice for Madison trended for 3 days. Nathan's company stock plummeted, but his lawyers were good, and he made bail within a week. Madison was still in the hospital when Nathan appeared at the NICU window. Security stopped him from entering, but he stood there, staring at the twins with an expression Madison couldn't read. They're mine too, he said when he saw her watching. My DNA, my legacy. Your victims, Madison corrected. Nathan smiled coldly. We'll see what the court says. My lawyers tell me premature birth is often caused by maternal stress. Stress you created by running away, making false accusations, creating drama. False accusations? It's all on video. Videos can be edited, witnesses can be bought, judges can be influenced. He leaned against the glass. You think William Sterling is your savior? And ask him what really happened to Catherine. Before Madison could respond, security had escorted Nathan away, but his words lingered like poison. That night, Madison confronted William. What did Nathan mean? William was quiet for a long moment. Catherine wasn't just my daughter. She was my business partner. When she died, her shares went to Nathan. It gave him control of patents worth billions. You think he killed her for money? I know he did, but knowing and proving are different things. William met her eyes. Madison, I am helping you, but yes, I also want justice for Catherine. Nathan needs to pay for what he's done. Madison felt the ground shifting beneath her again. Everyone had an agenda. Everyone wanted something. Even her saviors came with strings attached. Hope started crying in her incubator, and Madison moved to her, placing a hand on the tiny glass box that held her daughter. It's okay, baby, she whispered. Mommy's here. But for how long? Nathan's lawyers had filed for emergency custody, claiming Madison was an unfit mother who had endangered the pregnancy. The hearing was in 3 days. If she lost, her daughters would go to Nathan before they even left the NICU. Madison looked at Grace, hooked to oxygen, fighting for life. She had survived Nathan's abuse, survived the pregnancy, survived the birth. But the hardest fight was still coming. The platform was waiting. The custody hearing was a disaster from the start. Nathan had hired Chicago's most expensive family law firm, and they came prepared to destroy Madison. They had photos from the gala showing her falling, testimony from Dr. Crow, who had somehow avoided prosecution, and Emma, Madison's own sister, sitting in Nathan's row of supporters. Madison's lawyer was good but overwhelmed. William had offered to pay for better representation, but Madison couldn't afford to owe him more than she already did. Your Honor, Nathan's lawyer began, Mrs. Cross has a documented history of mental instability, has engaged in parental alienation before the children were even born, and created a dangerous situation that resulted in premature birth. They played edited clips from the live stream, making it look like Madison had caused the confrontation. They presented her medical records from her athletic career, painting her depression as chronic mental illness. They even had a witness who claimed to have seen Madison drinking while pregnant, a complete lie, but the woman was convincing. Madison's lawyer fought back, presenting the recording devices, the threats, the bruises. But Nathan's team spun everything. The recordings were taken out of context. The bruises were self-inflicted for attention. During a recess, Madison found Emma in the bathroom. How could you, Madison asked. Emma wouldn't meet her eyes. He paid off my student loans, all $200,000, and he said if I didn't testify, he'd sue me for the money he gave me during your marriage. Money he gave you? For Mom's cancer treatment. He said it was a loan, not a gift. I have kids too, Madison. I can't lose my house. Madison wanted to scream, to shake her sister, but she just walked away. Everyone had a price, and Nathan knew exactly what currency to use. The hearing continued for 2 more days. By the end, the judge looked exhausted and skeptical of both parties. Madison could see it going either way, and that terrified her. Even partial custody would give Nathan access to the girls, and access was all he needed to destroy them the way he was destroying her. On the last day of testimony, Nathan took the stand. He was perfect, composed, articulate, the concerned father just wanting to protect his children. Madison watched the judge nodding along, buying the performance. That night, unable to sleep, Madison made a decision. She called Nathan. Ready to negotiate? He answered on the first ring. Meet me tomorrow, alone. We'll discuss terms. Terms? You have nothing to negotiate with. I have the ability to make this all go away. Drop the custody case and I'll sign whatever you want. Full NDA, no financial support, nothing. Nathan was quiet, calculating. Where? Union Station, Platform 7, where you first proposed. It was a lie. He had proposed at a restaurant, but she needed him confident, off guard. Fine, noon. Madison hung up and texted William. Tomorrow, Platform 7, be ready. She spent the night with Hope and Grace, memorizing their faces, their tiny fingers, the way they scrunched their noses when they slept. If this went wrong, it might be the last time she saw them. The next morning, Madison stood on Platform 7, watching commuters rush past. The platform was crowded, perfect for witnesses. She had recording devices everywhere, her collar, her shoe, her purse. William's people were positioned throughout the station. Nathan arrived exactly at noon, confident and calm. He looked perfect as always, not like a man whose life was unraveling. Smart of you to finally accept reality, he said, standing too close. The girls need a stable parent. Is that what Catherine needed? Madison asked. Nathan's expression flickered. Don't mention her name. Why, because you pushed her? Like you're planning to push me? Nathan laughed. Push you? Madison, you're suicidal. Everyone knows it. Your sister testified about your instability. Dr. Crow documented your delusions. I'm not Catherine, Nathan. No, you're not. Catherine was smarter. She knew when she'd lost. He stepped closer, backing Madison toward the platform edge. She stood right here, actually. Platform 7. She was crying about the baby, saying she'd tell everyone what I'd done. But accidents happen on train platforms. People fall. Madison's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. You killed her. Prove it, Nathan whispered. You can't. Just like you can't prove anything else. But you know what I can prove? That you're an unfit mother who came here to kill herself rather than lose custody. The rumble of an approaching train echoed through the tunnel. Nathan moved closer, his hand reaching for Madison's shoulder. Goodbye, Madison. But as his hand made contact, Madison pivoted, using her old athletic training. She grabbed his wrist, twisted, and threw him off balance. Nathan stumbled, caught himself, and came at her again with rage in his eyes. Stop! Detective Chen's voice boomed across the platform. Nathan Cross, you're under arrest for the murder of Catherine Sterling. Police flooded the platform. Nathan looked around wildly, then at Madison, who was pulling a wire from under her shirt. You recorded everything, he said, stunned. Everything, Madison confirmed. Your confession to killing Catherine, your attempt to kill me, everything. Nathan tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Officers surrounded him, and this time there would be no bail. The murder confession guaranteed that. As they cuffed him, Nathan looked at Madison with pure hatred. Those girls will grow up knowing their father is in prison because of you. No, Madison said firmly. They'll grow up knowing their mother saved them from a monster. The trial was the biggest news story Chicago had seen in years. Nathan Cross, tech millionaire, on trial for murdering his first wife and attempting to murder his second. The courtroom was packed every day, and Madison sat in the front row for all of it. William had hired the best prosecutors money could buy, and they systematically destroyed Nathan's defense. The confession on the platform was played repeatedly. Financial records showed Nathan had transferred Catherine's assets within hours of her death. A new witness came forward, a homeless man who had seen Nathan push Catherine but had been too afraid to speak up before. Jessica Thorne, Nathan's business partner and mistress, testified against him to save herself. She revealed emails where Nathan discussed removing obstacles and clearing the path for their future. She produced recordings of Nathan bragging about how easy it was to manipulate the legal system. He said Madison was practice, Jessica testified, avoiding Madison's eyes. That he'd learned from mistakes with Catherine. He knew exactly how to discredit her, isolate her, make everyone think she was crazy. The prosecution presented everything. The forged psychiatric records, the staged therapy session with Patricia Brennan, the bribes to Dr. Crow. They showed how Nathan had systematically destroyed Madison's support system, buying off her sister, turning friends against her, creating a narrative of mental illness that almost worked. Madison testified last. She spoke about the abuse, the gaslighting, the fear. She talked about the twins still in the NICU, fighting for their lives while their father tried to sell them to adoptive parents. She was calm, clear, and devastating. Nathan Cross believes he's above consequences, she said, looking directly at him. He believes money can buy truth, that power can erase crimes, but he's wrong. Catherine Sterling deserves justice. My daughters deserve safety, and Nathan Cross deserves to face what he's done. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty of murder in the first degree, guilty of attempted murder, guilty of conspiracy, guilty of fraud. The list went on. Nathan stood stoic as each verdict was read, but Madison saw his hands shaking. His empire was gone. His freedom was gone. His carefully constructed image was shattered forever. Life without parole for Catherine's murder. 25 years for attempting to kill Madison. Additional time for the financial crimes. Nathan Cross would die in prison. As they led him away, Nathan turned to Madison one last time. You think you've won? I think I survived, Madison replied. That's enough. The media frenzy afterward was intense. Madison gave one interview, then disappeared from public view. She had two premature babies to focus on, and they needed her more than the world needed her story. William helped her relocate, setting up a trust for the girls that Nathan could never touch. He also revealed something that changed everything. Catherine left a video, he said one day at the hospital, hidden in a safety deposit box I just found. She recorded it the week before she died. Madison watched Catherine Sterling, young and scared but determined, speak from beyond the grave. If you're watching this, Nathan killed me, Catherine said. I'm leaving this record because I know what he's planning. He's been dosing me with drugs to make me seem unstable. He's been telling people I'm suicidal. He says it's easier to be a widower than a divorcee. Says death is cleaner than divorce. I'm not suicidal. I want my baby to live. If something happens to me, know that Nathan Cross is a murderer. The video was released to the public. Any remaining support for Nathan evaporated. His mother publicly disowned him. His company was dissolved, the assets distributed to his victims. Emma came to the hospital crying, begging for forgiveness. Madison hugged her sister, but knew their relationship would never be the same. Trust, once broken, left scars that never fully healed. I was scared, Emma sobbed. He threatened my kids. I know, Madison said. But when I needed you most, you chose him. Emma left, and Madison didn't know if she'd see her again. Some wounds were necessary, even if they hurt. The twins grew stronger every day. Hope came off oxygen first, then grace. They were fighters, survivors, just like their mother. Madison spent every moment she could with them, singing softly, telling them they were loved, they were wanted, they were safe. 6 months after the trial, Madison stood at the edge of Lake Michigan, her prosthetic blade gleaming in the morning sun. The amputation had been necessary. An infection from the stress and medical complications had made it impossible to save her leg. But Madison had made peace with it. She was alive. Her daughters were thriving. That was what mattered. William had introduced her to the Paralympic training program, and she had thrown herself into it with the same determination that had once made her an Olympic hopeful. Running was different now. Harder in some ways, easier in others. The blade didn't tire like flesh did. It was titanium strength like she had become. "Mama, run," Hope said from her stroller, clapping her chubby hands. At almost 1 year old, the twins were small but perfect, hitting every milestone with determination that made Madison proud. Grace pointed at the lake, babbling excitedly at the ducks. They were so different already. Hope bold and loud, Grace observant and careful. Neither of them had Nathan's cold eyes. They had Madison's warmth, her strength, her spirit. "Ready?" her coach Marcus called out. He was a former Paralympian himself, and he pushed Madison hard, seeing potential she had thought was lost forever. Madison kissed both girls, then took her position at the starting line they'd drawn in the sand. The wind whipped off the lake, cold and challenging, but she had faced worse. She ran. The blade responded perfectly, each stride powerful and controlled. She had lost part of her leg, but gained something else. A knowledge of her own strength that no one could ever take away. She ran faster, pushing harder, feeling the burn in her lungs that reminded her she was alive. Marcus clocked her time, whistling appreciatively. "That's 4 seconds better than last week. You keep this up, you'll qualify for nationals." Madison smiled, sweaty and exhausted, but exhilarated. A year ago, she had been bleeding on subway tracks. Now she was training for the Paralympics. Life had a strange way of circling back. After training, she took the girls to the new apartment William had helped her find. It wasn't fancy, a simple 2-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, but it was hers. The walls were covered with the girls' artwork, colorful scribbles that she treasured more than any designer painting Nathan had ever bought. The doorbell rang as she was preparing lunch. Through the peephole, she saw Jessica Thorne. Madison hesitated, then opened the door with the chain still on. "What do you want?" Jessica looked different. Designer clothes replaced with simple jeans, perfect makeup gone, humanity showing through. "To apologize," Jessica said simply, "and to give you this." She held out an envelope through the gap. Madison took it cautiously. "It's from Nathan's cryptocurrency accounts," Jessica explained. "Ones the FBI didn't find. 50 million. It should be yours and the girls." "Why?" Jessica met her eyes. "Because I was part of it. I knew what he was, and I didn't care because I wanted what he could give me. But seeing you at the trial, seeing you fight for your babies, seeing real strength, I realized I've been weak my whole life. This won't fix what I did, but maybe it can help you and the girls build something better. Madison looked at the envelope. $50 million. Enough to never worry again, to give the girls every opportunity, to build the life Nathan had tried to steal. The FBI will trace this. They won't. I'm better with crypto than Nathan ever was. Jessica turned to go, then stopped. For what it's worth, you're the strongest person I've ever met. Those girls are lucky to have you. After Jessica left, Madison stood holding the envelope, processing this twist. She could refuse it, stay proud and poor, or she could take it, use Nathan's own hidden money to build the future he tried to destroy. She looked at Hope and Grace, playing with blocks, laughing at something only they understood. Madison made her decision. She would take the money, but not for luxury. She would start a foundation for women escaping abusive relationships. She would fund legal aid, safe houses, counseling. She would turn Nathan's blood money into lifelines for women like her. That evening, William visited for dinner, as he did every Thursday. He had become like a grandfather to the girls, the family Madison had lost when hers chose Nathan's money over her truth. I have something to tell you, they both said simultaneously, then laughed. You first, Madison insisted. William pulled out a photo. I'm getting married. Her name's Helen. We met at grief counseling for parents who lost children. She lost her son to violence too. We understand each other's pain. Madison hugged him, genuinely happy. William deserved love after so much loss. Your turn, he said. Madison showed him the bank statement. The $50 million had been deposited. She explained her plans for the foundation, the women she could help, the lives she could save. William listened, then smiled. Catherine would have loved that, taking Nathan's money and using it to protect women from men like him. It's poetic justice. They sat watching the sunset paint Chicago's skyline gold, the girls playing at their feet. Madison thought about how much had changed, how much she had lost, how much she had gained. Tomorrow she had her first real Paralympic qualifying event. Next month, the foundation would launch. The girls were healthy, happy, safe. Nathan was in prison forever, his name synonymous with evil. Madison had won. Not the way she had imagined when she married Nathan, dreaming of fairy tale love, but in a deeper way, a truer way. She had survived, risen, and transformed her pain into purpose. Mama, Grace said, toddling over with a book. Madison lifted her daughter onto her lap, Hope climbing up too. She opened the book, a simple story about a bird learning to fly after a storm broke its wing. Once upon a time, Madison began, her daughters nestled against her, there was a bird who thought she couldn't fly anymore. Outside, the city hummed with life. Trains rattled on their tracks, but they no longer frightened her. She had faced the platform and lived. She had been pushed toward death and chosen life instead. The bird in the story learned to fly differently, stronger than before, just like Madison. The Paralympic trials were held at the University of Illinois, the same track where Madison had once dreamed of Olympic glory. Now, 15 years and a lifetime later, she stood at the starting line with titanium where flesh used to be. Hope and Grace, now 3 years old, watched from the stands with William and his wife Helen. The girls wore matching t-shirts that read, my mom is my hero, and held homemade signs with crooked letters spelling, Go Mama. Madison had trained for this moment for 2 years. Every morning run along Lake Michigan, every gym session, every moment of doubt pushed through had led here. The other runners were younger, some with decades of experience with their prosthetics. Madison was the underdog, the newcomer, the woman who had started her athletic career over at 30. Lane 4, Madison Hayes, the announcer called. She had legally dropped the cross from her name the day Nathan's prison sentence was finalized. The stadium wasn't full. Paralympic trials didn't draw Super Bowl crowds, but every person there mattered. In the stands sat 15 women from her foundation's safe houses, women who had escaped their own Nathans. They had chartered a bus to be here, to watch someone who had been where they were now race towards something better. Madison crouched into starting position, her blade precisely positioned, her breathing controlled. For a moment, the doubt crept in. She thought of Nathan in his cell, probably hearing about this through prison gossip. Would he be hoping she fell? Would he claim credit if she succeeded, saying his cruelty had made her stronger? Set. She pushed Nathan from her mind. This wasn't about him anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. The gun fired. Madison exploded from the blocks, her blade striking the track with rhythmic precision. She had learned to trust the prosthetic, to make it part of her rather than something attached to her. The first 50 meters were perfect, her form exactly what Marcus had drilled into her. At the turn, she was third, two runners ahead, both seasoned competitors. Madison could hear Hope's voice somehow cutting through the crowd noise. "Run, Mama, run!" It was the same thing Madison whispered to herself with every stride. The final stretch opened before her. This was where races were won or lost, where the body wanted to quit but the mind had to take over. Madison thought of every reason to push harder. Catherine Sterling, who never got to see her child born. The women in the stands, who needed to see that survival could become triumph. Her daughters, who would grow up knowing their mother didn't just endure, she excelled. Most of all, she ran for herself. For the woman who had bled on train tracks. For the teacher who had been told she was worthless. For the mother who had been called unfit. For every version of herself that Nathan had tried to erase. She passed the second-place runner with 20 meters to go. The leader was within reach. Madison's lungs burned, her muscles screamed, but her blade kept striking the track with mechanical perfection. They crossed the line together, too close to call. Madison collapsed on the track, chest heaving, unsure if she had done enough. The times would tell. Marcus reached her first, pulling her to her feet. "Look at the board," he said, grinning. Madison Hayes, 11:92 seconds. First place, Paralympic qualifier. The stadium erupted, not the roar of thousands, but the genuine joy of hundreds who understood what this meant. Madison looked to the stands, saw her daughters jumping up and down, saw William wiping tears from his eyes, saw the women from her foundation hugging each other. She had done it. The medal ceremony was small but meaningful. As they placed the gold around her neck, Madison thought about all the things that had been taken from her: her leg, her marriage, her trust, her sister. But look what had been given in return: purpose, strength, freedom, true family. A reporter approached afterward, a young woman with eager eyes. "Madison, this is an incredible comeback story. What would you tell women who are in situations like you were?" Madison looked directly at the camera, knowing who might be watching. Women in beautiful prisons, in marriages that were slowly killing them, in situations where they felt trapped. "Document everything," she said clearly. "Trust your instincts. You're stronger than you know. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Any words for Nathan Cross? Madison considered the question. She could be angry, vengeful, bitter. She had every right to be. But holding on to hatred was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. "I forgive him," she said simply. "Not for his sake, but for mine. He's in prison, where he belongs. I'm free, my daughters are safe. That's all that matters now." Later, at the celebration dinner, a small Italian restaurant that William had rented out, Madison watched her daughters play with Helen, who had become the grandmother they needed. William sat beside her, quiet and contemplative. "I have something to tell you," he said. "I'm sick, cancer, stage 3. Madison's heart dropped. "William, no. I've had a good run, got to see justice for Catherine, got to see you rise from ashes, got to be grandpa to 2 amazing girls." He smiled, peaceful in a way she'd never seen. "I'm not afraid, but I need to know you'll be okay." "We'll be fine," Madison assured him, though tears threatened. "The foundation is thriving. The girls are happy. I'm racing in the Paralympics next year." "Good." William pulled out an envelope. "My will. Everything goes to you and the girls. Catherine would have wanted it that way." Madison tried to protest, but William raised his hand. "Let me do this. Let me know that Catherine's money, her legacy, will raise 2 strong women who will never let anyone dim their light." 6 months later, Madison stood at another starting line, this one in Paris. The Paralympic Games, the dream she thought had died at 21, reborn at 31. The stadium was massive, the crowd electric, the moment everything. Hope and Grace were in the stands again, older now, understanding more. They had been through so much. William's funeral 2 months ago, the ongoing therapy to process their origin story, the unique challenge of being the daughters of a survivor. But they were thriving, strong, and confident in ways Madison had prayed for but never assumed. The gun fired. Madison ran like she had nothing to lose because she had already lost everything once and survived. She ran like she had everything to gain because she did. She ran like her daughters were watching because they were. She didn't win. Fourth place, just off the podium. But as she crossed the line, she smiled. 4 years ago, she had been pushed onto train tracks, intended to die with her unborn children. Now she was at the Paralympics, racing against the best in the world. That night at the closing ceremonies, Madison's phone buzzed. A notification from the prison system. Nathan had requested to add her to his visitor list. She deleted it without reading further. He had no power over her anymore. Back in the hotel room, the girls asleep between her and their stuffed animals. Madison opened her laptop. The foundation had received 300 new applications that week. Women who had seen her race, heard her story, found hope. She began reading their applications, each one a story of survival seeking to begin. Madison would help as many as she could. It was Catherine's money, William's legacy, her purpose. Outside, Paris glittered with lights. Somewhere in Chicago, Nathan sat in a cell, irrelevant and forgotten. Somewhere else, a woman was planning her escape from her own monster, drawing courage from Madison's story. Madison closed the laptop and curled around her daughters, breathing in their sweet sleeping scent. Tomorrow they would fly home. She would return to training, to the foundation, to the life she had built from ruins. But tonight she simply held her children and marveled at the journey. From the platform to the podium, from victim to victor, from broken to unbreakable. The twins stirred and Grace mumbled in her sleep, "Love you, Mama." "Love you too, baby," Madison whispered. "Forever and always." Hope kicked in her sleep, probably dreaming of running like her mother. Madison smiled, imagining the women they would become. Strong, certainly. Kind, hopefully. Unafraid to stand up to anyone who tried to make them small. They would know their story eventually. The whole truth when they were ready. They would know their father was a monster, but more importantly, they would know their mother was a warrior. Madison had given them more than life. She had given them an example of how to live it. The platform had tried to be her ending. Instead, it became her beginning. And every morning when she strapped on her blade, every time she stood at a starting line, every woman she helped escape through the foundation, Madison proved the same truth. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in never falling. It's in how you rise. Madison stood at the podium in the United Nations headquarters in New York, addressing the global summit on domestic violence. Behind her, a massive screen showed statistics that should shame humanity. 1 in 3 women worldwide experience physical or sexual violence. Every day, 3 women in America were murdered by intimate partners. "My name is Madison Hayes," she began, her voice carrying the authority of survival. "8 years ago, my husband pushed me in front of a train. He did this while I was 6 months pregnant with twins. I lost my leg. I almost lost my daughters. I almost lost my life." The audience of delegates, activists, and survivors sat in rapt attention. In the front row, Hope and Grace, now 8 years old, watched their mother with the same focus they brought to their own activities. Hope's gymnastics and Grace's violin. But my story isn't unique. It's happening right now in every country represented in this room. The only difference is that I survived to tell it. Madison clicked to the next slide showing the Hayes Foundation's work. 500 women housed in safe facilities. 3,000 legal cases funded. 15,000 women provided with emergency resources. Nathan Cross was a millionaire. He had lawyers, doctors, and even my own family on his payroll. He built a cage so perfect that when I tried to escape, I was called crazy. When I sought help, I was called unstable. When I fought back, I was called dangerous. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. The system that should have protected me almost delivered me to my killer. It took a recording of his confession, a billionaire's intervention, and pure luck to get justice. Most women don't have those advantages. Madison clicked to the final slide, a photo of her crossing the finish line at the Tokyo Paralympics, where she had finally won gold. This medal, she said, touching the gold she wore around her neck, isn't just mine. It belongs to every woman who was told she was worthless, crazy, or better off dead. It belongs to Catherine Sterling, my husband's first victim, who didn't survive to tell her story. It belongs to my daughters who will grow up in a world where we refuse to be silent about these crimes. The speech continued for 20 more minutes, outlining policy proposals, funding initiatives, and global cooperation strategies. But Madison knew the moment that would make the news was already captured. A survivor standing at one of the world's most prestigious podiums, refusing to be silenced or shamed. Afterward, at the reception, a young woman approached Madison tentatively. She had the hollow eyes Madison recognized, the careful movements of someone used to being hurt. "My husband is a senator," the woman whispered. "Everyone loves him. No one would believe me." Madison pulled out her phone and called her foundation's emergency line. "Someone will meet you tonight," she told the woman. "You're not alone anymore." As Madison watched the woman walk away, shoulders a little straighter, she thought about the ripples of survival. Every woman who escaped created the possibility for another to follow. Every story told made the next one more believable. That evening, in their hotel room overlooking Central Park, Madison helped the girls with their homework. Hope was struggling with an essay about heroes. "I don't know what to write," Hope complained. "Everyone's going to write about someone famous." "You could write about Aunt Helen," Grace suggested, referring to William's widow, who had become their grandmother in every way that mattered. "Or Marcus," Madison added, thinking of her coach who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. Hope considered, then began writing. Madison glimpsed the title, "My Hero, Every Woman Who Said No More." Later, after the girls were asleep, Madison stood on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed with a notification she had been expecting for years. Nathan Cross was found dead in his cell, apparent suicide. Madison felt, nothing. No joy, no sadness, just a closing of a chapter that had ended long ago for her. Nathan had been irrelevant since the day she decided to live for more than revenge. She deleted the notification and opened her email instead. 300 new applications to the foundation. 15 safe house requests, 20 legal aid emergencies. The work never ended, but neither did the hope. Tomorrow she would fly to Los Angeles to open the foundation's 10th safe house. Next month she would compete in the World Championships. Next year, Hope would start competitive gymnastics and Grace would perform her first violin recital. Life had become beautiful in ways Madison never could have imagined when she was bleeding on those tracks. Not perfect. She still had nightmares, still flinched at certain sounds, still struggled with trust. But beautiful nonetheless. Her phone rang. It was Jessica Thorne, who had become an unexpected ally, using her tech skills to help women disappear from their abusers safely. "We got her out," Jessica said simply. "The senator's wife. She's safe." Madison smiled, looking back through the window at her sleeping daughters. Another woman saved. Another family protected. Another Nathan stopped. The platform had been meant as her grave. Instead, she had made it her foundation. And from that foundation, she had built an empire of survival, one woman at a time.